Usually when we talk about a major life transition, there's this expectation of precision, like engineering almost.
Oh, yeah. Like it should all just fit together perfectly.
Right. You break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points and says, there it is, broken.
Yep. It's visible. It's quantifiable.
Exactly. We like things to be visible and neatly categorized with a clear, sequential set of instructions. But the moment you step into the world of residential real estate,
Oh, boy.
specifically that brutal, high-stakes transition of moving out of your existing home and into a brand new construction, well, that x-ray machine just completely shatters.
It really does. It shatters into a million pieces.
Suddenly, you're looking at a logistical and financial landscape that isn't just murky. I mean, it's practically actively trying to trick you.
Because it's a multivariable equation, right?
Yeah.
And all the variables are moving at once.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got fluctuating interest rates, hyperlocal buyer sentiment, construction supply chains, and all of that is layered on top of the intensely emotional reality of just uprooting your life.
Which is exactly why today's deep dive is your survival map. We've got a fantastic, incredibly strategic guide on the table today from New Home University.
It's a great one.
Yeah, it's titled The Sequential Sale Strategy, From Old to New. And our mission for you today is to decode what is arguably the greatest real estate catch-22 of all time.
The big dilemma.
Right. When you're making that leap into a pristine new build, do you sell your current home first or do you buy the new one first?
It's the central tension of literally any real estate transaction. But the New Home University curriculum isolates this specifically within the context of moving into new construction.
Which changes things.
It completely changes things. It introduces an entirely different set of rules and, frankly, risks compared to just swapping existing homes.
Okay, let's unpack this because we want this deep dive to be your shortcut to mastering this sequence.
Yeah, you really have to master it.
By the end of this conversation, you're going to understand the underlying mechanics of exactly what's at stake when you make that jump.
For sure.
But before we get into the heavy financial engineering, we have to establish the baseline, right? The two primary paths of this sequential sales strategy.
Right. And the guide draws a very hard line between these two scenarios. You've got when it makes strategic sense to sell first and when you absolutely must buy first.
And you really can't navigate either without a very sober assessment of what kind of financial and logistical pain you're willing to endure. Because, spoiler alert, neither path is painless.
No, not at all. It's really just picking your poison.
Right. We all know the basic mechanics of buying and selling, but reading through the source material, I realized it's really about structural integrity.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, think of the sell-first strategy, like letting go of a trapeze bar before the next one even swings to you. You're just pushing off into open water, hoping the new marina finishes building your slip before a storm hits.
It is a terrifying mental image, but it's incredibly accurate.
Right. You get absolute financial certainty. I mean, you know exactly how much cash you extracted from the old house, but you are logistically adrift.
Completely adrift.
Yeah.
You're packing, you're moving into a short-term rental, you're bleeding cash on storage units.
You're essentially homeless for an indeterminate amount of time.
Exactly. It's a logistical nightmare, yes. But let's look at the alternative. Because if you take the buy first path, you're keeping one foot firmly planted on the dock of your old house.
While trying to stretch your other foot onto the deck of the new boat as it pulls away.
Yes. And suddenly you're doing the splits over a very deep financial ocean.
It sounds exhausting.
It is. What's fascinating here is how the guide breaks down the invisible carrying costs of that split stance. It's not just the terror of holding two mortgages.
Which is terrifying enough on its own.
Right. But it's also the property taxes, the overlapping insurance premiums, the utilities, the maintenance on an empty property that you were desperately trying to keep staged and pristine.
Oh man, the stress of keeping an empty house perfect.
It's massive. You're taking on massive leverage, betting that your local market will absorb your old home at your target price before your cash reserves just completely evaporate.
And if buyer demand softens for even like 3 weeks, that leverage turns into a massive liability.
Total liability.
Right, and we're talking to an audience that tracks the market. You know how quickly sentiment shifts? A bad jobs report comes out on a Friday, and by Monday, foot traffic at open houses just completely flatlines.
It happens all the time.
So if both paths have these massive inherent flaws, I mean, one ruins your life logistically, the other risks ruining it financially, how do you actually
Well,
choose?
you have to look upstream. The guide makes a brilliant pivot here, actually, noting that the sequence you choose is ultimately dictated by why you are moving in the first place.
Okay, the motivation.
Exactly. It forces a rigorous evaluation of your core motivation, essentially dividing the entire market into two camps. You have upsizers and rightsizers.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this terminology for a second.
Sure.
Because I see right sizing all over premium real estate listings and developer marketing materials, isn't right sizing just a polite, fancy real estate word for downsizing?
I can see why you'd think that.
It just feels like real estate agents spinning the fact that someone is buying a smaller, cheaper house.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's actually a profound distinction, not just marketing fluff.
Really?
Yeah. The New Home University material explicitly divorces right sizing from the concept of square footage. Downsizing is strictly about scale, moving from 4,000 square feet to 1,500.
Okay.
Right sizing, on the other hand, is about architectural alignment. It's about auditing how you actually live today and demanding that your physical environment matches that reality.
Ah, I see. So it's less about the size of the box and more about the shape of the interior.
Precisely. Consider a couple whose kids have finally moved out. They're sitting in this massive, disjointed colonial house. They have formal dining rooms they haven't used since, like, 2019, and 4 empty bedrooms upstairs.
They're essentially paying to heat and cool a museum dedicated to their kids' high school years.
Yes. And they're paying the property taxes to match. For them, right-sizing into a new construction might actually mean buying a home with the exact same square footage, but with a drastically different layout.
Like trading the bedrooms for living space.
Exactly. Maybe it's a sprawling single-story property with a massive professional kitchen, a home gym, a fully integrated outdoor living space. They aren't shrinking their footprint, they are optimizing their utility.
Okay, I see the distinction. I buy that. But how does that philosophical motivation actually dictate the sequence of the sale?
It fundamentally alters your leverage in the form of time. An upsizer is usually fleeing acute physical pain. You have the third child on the way, and your current home only has 2 bedrooms.
Right, the walls are closing in.
Your timeline is biology. It's rigid. Because the need is so pressing, upsizers are often forced into the buy-first strategy.
They just have to get out.
Right? They have to secure the new build immediately to solve their space crisis, which forces them to swallow the financial risk of holding 2 properties.
They don't have the luxury of waiting, but the right sizer does.
Exactly. The right-sizer's current home isn't inflicting daily logistical pain, it's just inefficient. Therefore, they have the ultimate negotiation tool, time.
Time is everything in real estate.
It really is. They can afford to execute the sell-first strategy. They can list their home, wait for an aggressive top-of-market offer, capture maximum equity, and then patiently navigate that temporary housing phase while their new, optimized home is built.
Wow, okay, so the motivation dictates the timeline, and the timeline dictates the strategy.
You nailed it.
That makes perfect sense. The
Yeah.
why is the engine. But let's get into the how, because this transition isn't cheap.
No, it is not.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because unless you have $500,000 of liquid cash sitting idle in a checking account, you need sophisticated leverage to make this jump. The source material highlights 2 critical financial mechanisms: bridge financing and builder contingencies.
2 very different tools.
Right. Now, we all know the absolute basics of a bridge loan. You're tapping your current home's equity to fund the new down payment. I like to think of it as a financial stepping stone. It's a pressure valve that absorbs the weight of the new purchase using the trapped equity of the old house.
It is a pressure valve, but it's a valve with a very dangerous design flaw.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yes, you are borrowing against the future sale of your current asset. It allows you to buy the new build without liquidating your retirement accounts.
Which is good.
But because the lender is taking on a subordinate short-term position, the interest rates are punitive. We aren't talking about your standard 30-year fixed rate here.
Right. And this is where I think people get trapped. They view a bridge loan as just another mortgage, when really it's more like a corporate line of credit.
That's a much better way to look at it.
Hmm.
And the specific danger when applying a bridge loan to new construction, which the guide heavily emphasizes, by the way, is the timeline.
The dreaded timeline.
A bridge loan is typically structured for a 6 to 12-month term. If your new construction faces 6 months of supply chain delays, and your old house sits on the market because interest rates suddenly spiked, that pressure valve doesn't just hiss.
It explodes.
It explodes. You end up burning through the very equity you are trying to preserve just to service the debt.
Which naturally leads buyers to look for an alternative that doesn't involve crushing interest rates.
Naturally.
Enter the builder contingency. Now, a contingency basically says, hey, builder, I want this house, I'll sign the contract, but my obligation to close is entirely dependent on me selling my old house first.
Right.
But honestly, looking at this from the developer's side, why on earth would a builder agree to that? They're basically taking my liquidity problem and making it their problem.
It seems completely counterintuitive, but it all comes down to how developers secure their own financing.
Oh, interesting.
Builders rely on commercial construction loans, and those commercial lenders release funds based on pre-sales. A builder will accept your contingent offer because having a signed contract, even a contingent one, allows them to go to their bank and show momentum.
I see.
It unlocks their next tranche of development capital.
So you're helping them solve their financing problem, which is why they tolerate your financing problem.
Temporarily. And that's the catch.
That's always a catch.
Builders are ruthlessly pragmatic.
Wow.
They will almost never grant an open-ended contingency. They protect themselves with what's called a kick-out clause.
That kick-out clause.
Right. They agree to your contingency, but they continue to aggressively market the property. If a second buyer walks into the sales center with cash in hand, the builder triggers the kick-out clause.
Oh, wow.
They give you a 48-hour window. You either drop your contingency and commit to buying the house immediately, usually by taking on that dangerous bridge loan we just talked about, or you walk away and they sell it to the cash buyer.
So the safety net suddenly turns into a trapdoor. You thought you had the house locked up, and 48 hours later, you're back to square one. Which means, whether you use a bridge loan or a builder contingency, every single road leads back to one terrifying reality. How fast can you sell your current house?
Which brings the entire sequential sales strategy out of the realm of theory and crashes it right into the reality of the open market. And this is where the guide addresses the single biggest psychological trap sellers fall into.
Let me guess. Trying to time the market.
You got it. Trying to time the market.
I see this constantly. People trap themselves in analysis paralysis. They're reading macroeconomic forecasts. They're obsessing over the Federal Reserve's dot plots, tracking seasonal inventory charts.
Oh, yeah, looking at all the graphs.
Right. Trying to pinpoint the precise Tuesday in mid-April to list their home for an extra 2% premium isn't trying to time the market just a fool's errand that traps homeowners in analysis paralysis?
This raises an important question about leverage and control. As a homeowner, what variables do you actually command?
A few, I'd imagine.
Exactly. You have zero influence over the bond market. You can't control mortgage rate fluctuations. You can't control if a competing developer suddenly floods your zip code with inventory.
Right.
When you try to time the market, you are gambling your entire sequential strategy on forces completely outside your sphere of influence.
You're trying to steer a ship by yelling at the wind.
That is exactly what it is, which is why the New Home University curriculum insists on a hard pivot. Stop looking at the macro and obsess over the micro.
Focus on what's in front of you.
The only controllable variable is the preparation and positioning of your own asset. The actionable alternative to market timing is aggressive strategic home preparation.
And we aren't just talking about mowing the lawn and picking cookies before an open house here. The source material is talking about structural preparation.
We are talking about eliminating buyer friction. It's fascinating how the psychology of a buyer works.
Oh, it's wild.
When a buyer walks into a home and sees a water stain on the ceiling or feels a sticking sliding door, they don't calculate the actual repair cost.
They don't think, oh, that's a $50 fix.
No, never. They use that visible flaw as a proxy for hidden neglect. In their mind, a leaky faucet instantly translates into a $5,000 deduction on their offer because they assume the plumbing inside the walls is rotting.
They completely extrapolate the worst-case scenario.
Exactly. Aggressive preparation, which means neutralizing the paint, executing all minor repairs, professional staging, and crucially, pricing the home competitively from day one is how you control your timeline.
Because in real estate, time on market is toxic.
Highly toxic. If your home is overpriced and sits for 45 days, the algorithms push it down, and the only buyers who view it are looking for a massive discount.
And if it sits for 45 days, your bridge loan interest is compounding, and your builder is getting ready to trigger that kick-out clause.
Yep.
Bad preparation literally breaks the entire financial sequence.
It's a cascading failure, which perfectly sets up the final and perhaps most precarious section of the New Home University Guide. The specific friction of moving into new construction.
Because it's such a stark contrast, right? You're in your old house, agonizing over scuff marks and aged HVAC systems, and the whole time your brain is fixated on this pristine, technologically advanced, fully warranted new build.
It's the promised land.
It is. But getting across the border is where people trip. So what does this all mean in practice? Let me throw a hypothetical at you that synthesizes the mistakes the guide warns against.
Let's hear it.
Let's say you're a right-sizer. You smartly decide to sell first. You aggressively prep your house, list it in May, and it sells immediately.
Perfect scenario so far.
Right. You negotiate a standard 60-day close, meaning you have to hand over the keys by July 1st. Your developer told you the new construction would be ready by mid-July, so you think, I'm a genius. 2 weeks in an Airbnb, and I'm golden. But it's late June. Your closing on the old house is locked, and your developer calls. There's a municipal holdup on the final grading permits, or, the custom cabinets are stuck on a cargo ship. The new timeline is October. You are now legally obligated to vacate your home, and you have nowhere to go for a quarter of the year.
It happens every single day, and it is the direct result of a fundamental misunderstanding of the product.
What do you mean?
Moving into new construction introduces external variables that simply do not exist in the resale market. A resale closing date is a contractual absolute. A new construction estimated completion date is essentially a well-educated guess.
A guess that is legally protected by the builder's contract, by the way.
Yes, the contract always heavily shields the developer from delays caused by weather, labor shortages, permitting bureaucracy, and supply chains.
They cover their bases.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The most common mistake homeowners make is mapping a rigid sequence onto a fluid timeline. They treat that estimated completion date as an unmovable anchor, and they tether the sale of their old home directly to it.
So how does a sophisticated buyer actually build resilience into this? I mean, if you can't control the cargo ship or the city inspector, what do?
You engineer elasticity into your sequence.
Elasticity, I like that.
Proactive buyers, armed with this kind of strategic knowledge, don't just accept standard terms.
Right.
If they sell first, they negotiate a leaseback agreement on their current home.
Okay, how does that work?
They stipulate in the contract that they will sell the home, but retain the right to rent it back from the new owner for up to 90 days if the new build is delayed.
Oh, that's brilliant. You stay in your own house, but you have the cash from the sale sitting in your bank account.
Exactly. Or, if they use a bridge loan, they ensure the loan term extends 6 months past the builder's estimated delivery date. If they need temporary housing, they refuse a fixed-term lease and pay a premium for month-to-month flexibility.
So it's all about buffer zones.
Yes. The goal isn't to prevent the delay. That's impossible. The goal is to design a sequence that easily absorbs the shock of the delay without throwing you into a logistical or financial crisis.
Elasticity. That is the perfect word for it. It's about designing a system that bends so it doesn't break. Well, we have covered incredible ground today. If we distill the core insights from New Home University's sequential sales strategy, the mandate is clear. Transitioning from an old home to a new build is not about sheer luck or market timing. It's an intricate feat of sequencing.
It really is an art form.
It requires you to brutally evaluate your underlying motivations. Are you acting out of the biological urgency of upsizing or leveraging the luxury of time for rightsizing? It demands that you deploy the correct financial mechanisms, understanding the hidden dangers of bridge loan carrying costs and builder kick-out clauses. And above all, it requires engineering elasticity to survive the inevitable delays of new development.
It's a masterclass in focusing strictly on what you can control. You aggressively prepare your current asset to neutralize buyer objections, and you structure your exit to absorb timeline shocks.
Now, if you are listening to this and you're currently staring down this exact transition, trying to map out your own sequence, the source material provides a highly actionable next step. You can take advantage of a complimentary new home consultation.
Highly recommended.
And I want to emphasize the curriculum's phrasing here. This isn't a casual chat or a free sales pitch. It is a premium complimentary service designed to tactically apply everything we've discussed today to your specific market conditions and personal timeline. As always, we look forward to the permanent New Home University closing on your journey from old to new.
But before you untie from the dock and embark on that journey, consider this final thought. We've spent this entire time optimizing the financial pressure valves and the logistical timelines. But if your current, older home perfectly encapsulates the person you used to be, and this pristine new construction reflects the person you are striving to become, well, is the most dangerous hurdle of the sequential sale truly the risk of a bridge loan?
Oh, wow.
Or is the profound hidden challenge purely psychological, rooted in how incredibly difficult it is for us to let go of the safety of our past before we can fully commit to the uncertainty of our future?
That's a lot to think about. Just remember that broken x-ray machine we talked about at the beginning. No one can hand you a neat, visible picture of how this ends. You have to navigate the murky waters yourself, but at least now you know how to build the boat. Until next time.